This is Bloomberg Markets. I'm Amanda Lang alongside Matt Miller, and we are watching Bitcoin, of course, hitting an all-time high today above $66,000 for the first time, partly driven by optimism mounting on the back of that first U.S. Bitcoin futures ETF. It started trading just yesterday. With us now to discuss it all is Juthica Chou, Kraken's head of OTC Options Trading. Juthica, and how much do we, we know that that ETF is seen as sort of a key moment for Bitcoin in terms of the credibility factor. So just put into context for us what you think about the price hitting this level now and whether it only keeps rising since this is just the beginning of trading in these ETFs.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a huge watershed moment for the ecosystem, particularly in de-risking the asset, getting regulatory blessing, and opening it up to a whole new range of participants, whether it's individuals who can buy it in their retirement accounts or institutions that are more limited from a regulatory point of view. And so I think the price action is really validation of that narrative, as well as new inflows really coming into the ETF. I think they announced that north of 500 million was actually inflows yesterday of the billion that traded in volume. And so we're seeing the narrative and the view that this would really open up Bitcoin as an investable asset to more folks really play out.
What, in terms of institutional adoption, what are you seeing right now, Juthica, and what do you expect? What's the trajectory look like?
Well, to be honest, we saw a lot of rotation back into Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks as Bitcoin did rally 40% off of its September lows. I think part of that was some of the risk that was out there, headline risk from China dissipating, the market proving resilient. And part of it was definitely the noise around the ETF, whether it was trading shops that were getting prepared to provide liquidity or institutions taking more of a speculative view that this would lead to more investment. So I think we saw a lot of that play out, but now it's really a conversation around how much more is this going to grow the inflows into Bitcoin? Is it going to be 1 to 2 billion? Is it going to be 20 to 30 billion? And I think that's the conversation that folks are having now. And that's really what they're looking to see from the price action of the ETF as well as the ETF options that just got listed today.
Juthica, you mentioned China, and it seems like they've outlawed Bitcoin 5 or 6 times over the past 5 or 6 years, and yet it continues to march to new highs. What kind of presence does Bitcoin, does crypto have in China?
Well, you know, I think this most recent crackdown, we definitely did see mining actually move away from China. We saw leverage come down in the Chinese ecosystem. And so there were real actions taken. But at the end of the day, we're seeing that Bitcoin is global, that it is resilient, and that a lot of the news tends to be worse than the actual actions. And I think China, as you mentioned, has probably talked about banning Bitcoin maybe a dozen times. And if you look historically, the price action has always been over the next 1 to 2 months, more positive than negative. So the market, again, proving resilient here against that kind of news.
Kraken just settled a short while ago with the CFTC over, regulatory issues. It's not the first kind of event that points, Juthica, you could argue, to, trying to figure out what the regulations are and trying to match them up with reality. How much change do you think will happen? The U.S., according to some, is lagging other jurisdictions in clear regulations around trading cryptocurrencies.
Well, I think the regulatory clarity is definitely in the right direction, and things like the ETF are good that there's something to point to for a clear framework to operate under. And I think all the different jurisdictions, all that we're looking for is really a level playing field, and we're seeing that start to play out. So, regulation takes time, in particular, regulation compared to how fast crypto moves. And so I think we'll hopefully see these kinds of effects play out over time.
$100,000, do we hit it by the end of the year?
Never say never. I mean, you look at a year ago, we were probably trading at around $12,000. So it's crazy to think that now we're at 66,000. But when you get the inflows, there is still a lot of money on the sidelines. And so when you get the inflows, when you get some of the really large pension funds, it doesn't take much to push price up another 50%.
One thing I want to hit with you here is the number of women on the Kraken consumer app, up 40% year over year. What do you attribute that to in terms of kind of the retail base of traders?
I think it's really a testament to how the Kraken consumer app and in general, how we've been able to reach wider audiences and get more into the mainstream. And so I think we really see that in the data, as you mentioned, the number of females up 40% in the first half of the year. And it's a great statistic. It's a great trend. And I think it's just really a testament to the consumer app and the team building an awesome experience for a really broad audience.
Juthica, thanks so much for joining us. Fascinating story, fascinating company, and it's great to get you on as well. Juthica Chou, their head of OTC Options Trading.